Hello, Greg.
Hello.
Hello. How is the no row draft going?
So I've got some good feedback from Carlos. We're converging, and there were only few remaining items that I responded. I think I sent yesterday.
Yeah,
And
I saw something. Yeah.
yeah, so
Uh,
I hope that we will converge maybe by end of this week or early next week, and I'll upload the new version.
that's good. Thanks.
Sure.
Hello.
Hello,
Hello,
Tarek.
everyone. Hi. Hi, Law. Hi, everyone.
So we have 6 people. That's still a bit low.
Yeah.
We didn't send out a reminder this time. Is that the reason?
Mm, I didn't see that you sent a reminder.
No, I
Uh,
didn't. I can been kind of busy, so
okay, let's see. Let's give it some more time then.
yeah. I'm waiting at least for Nick, and I know that Matthew is not coming, so that's
He will be coming.
So is my audio okay? I'm getting some fairly rough audio
yeah.
from other people. Do I need to reconnect?
No, I can hear you well,
I can hear you.
but there's a little bit echo somewhere.
No, I'm going to reconnect. I'm going to change ISP and reconnect.
Okay.
Is that, I wonder, any better?
Yeah.
Okay, we can hear you.
By the way, I haven't seen my slides from the medical materials, so do I have to share my own screens later?
Hi, Yao. Your slides are on the session material. The link, I'll paste it, but
Oh,
I'll be sharing it
okay.
and
Oh,
I'll give you the control
oh,
after.
okay.
Okay.
Good.
Let me give you the link in the chat.
So, sorry, I was muted. Loa and Tony, I've responded to G with my personal view on some of his comments. I think some of his comments we should respectfully discard, but I think others have substance. I'm doing a personal sort of last look through it. I'm wondering whether we might want to have a voice call amongst the authors at some stage just to go through them.
Sure, if you think that's necessary.
Well, it's up to you. Why don't I just send it round to the authors, and then if they're all accepted, great. If there's any need for discussion, it might be quicker to do it with a voice call rather than lots of emails. I'll send them out to you first anyway.
Okay, that's fine. We can take a meeting. It's often quicker do it that way, but yeah, whichever way we want to do it.
All right, I'll send out my view of the changes in the to the author team first, and then we can share it with the rest of the working group.
Okay, fine.
And indeed, we may other may have a difference in my responses to Ji Dong's comments. So, again, we should discuss.
Okay, good. Greg, do you know if Joel will join the meeting? Okay.
So as you know, we have two proposals for supporting IAM with M&A. I think that would be good to have a discussion about working group adopting a solution.
Okay, so the plans for next week is to discuss use cases. We can do it the week after.
Okay. Then,
Okay.
yeah, it makes sense because IAM is one of the use cases, and I believe that there is interest in finding out what would be the solution, because it seems it will help overall discussion of ISD and PSD.
Okay, good. So it's Rakesh is one of them, and who's the other? Is it that? Are you talking about the direct export
Yes,
draft or? Okay, fine. Look,
Yeah.
and I know. So Tarek, do you want to continue waiting? We are 8 at the moment.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if I mean it's still good audience. We have 8, but do you think we should proceed with this little attendance, or what's your thought?
I think, yeah, we need to have the discussion. If we identify that we miss some input. We need to correct that some way, probably through mail or something. But yeah, I think we need a discussion. I had hoped that we should have some LSR, people with an LSR hat on, but I don't think we have.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to progress on this, and some.
So, there is some LSR expertise on this call.
Oh yeah, I know that there's no one with an LSR working group kind of strong profile, is it?
Okay. All right. Shall we? I guess we'll get started. This is an M&A interim, and for the usual attendees, they will know this is a collaboration between the three working groups, and we will note all this session is being recorded, and the material is being made available publicly. Links will be provided on the subsequent slide. This is the Note 12 that governs the IETF contributions as well as policies. And again, a little bit of pointers, administrative pointers here. We have the Meet Echo session there, and the agenda can be accessed from one of the bullets I'm sharing. Today's agenda is short. We will review the action items, and then I'll give the ball to Yao, so she can talk about signaling RLD, and then we'll close off if no one else has any other business to talk about.
Tarek, I have one thing at the end, and that's the announcement of the next week's meeting. I will send out the mail just when we close this meeting off. So just talk a little bit about what we do.
Sounds good. I'll remember to bring it up after. Anyone else has anything to add to the agenda? Okay. So we will get started by reviewing the action items outstanding. I have one action item that I'm tracking. It's open. And I don't see the authors of the M&A header solution draft, but it was to address all the comments. So we had this draft. Well, the open issues in that draft was presented last time we met in the interim, and the authors were supposed to take some action on outstanding comments. And we are tracking, so they were supposed to work with Joel as well, and a couple of other comments, including the RLD MSD discussion that we will have today. I am not sure if anyone can give me an update on the status of these discussions, anyone attending now, but feel free if anyone has any input.
I think there were some discussion on the mailing list.
Okay, I may have missed it. So, any closure you noticed?
There is some. I see if I can put it in the chat. I got the new version of Thunderbird. I think it's not working as it used to do. Where do I have the chat? There. No. Ah, there. Title of the message was like this, but it's maybe 2 weeks ago, 1 week. It was sent. Now it's August. Okay, now it's probably not the right thing. But I thought you will send a message to the authors.
Yeah,
and suggesting text.
yeah.
We can look at that.
A nod from the authors that they're consuming that whatever was sent. I don't want to record it as closed. I don't want to close that with this.
Okay, that's fine with me.
It might be, the text need to be consumed still. Okay. That's the only open action item I have. In with this, I'll pass the ball to Yao to talk about RLD and possible renaming that as well. So let's see. Now, let me see if I can give you control as well. Okay, Yao, you should be able to flip slides as well if you want.
Yes, I can do it now. Thank you. Hello, good morning and good afternoon and good evening, everyone. I'm Yao Liu. As we know, there are many discussions around ILD recently, and I've proposed an LSR draft on signaling ILD via IGP before. So I'm gonna introduce the draft and kick the discussion on ILD as required by the chairs. And sorry, I didn't put the name of the draft here, but I put the link in the chat. Please interrupt me if you have any questions or something else to discuss. Here's the agenda. Although the LSR draft doesn't define the ILD, but I suppose that we may want to discuss about it, so I put it here. And the M&A framework defines the concept of ILD. It is a number of LACs, starting from the top of the draft that a router can easily read in an incoming MPLS packet. By the word easily, as for my understanding, it roughly means that a router can read the LACs without recycling. So to make it more accurate, there are some alternative descriptions provided in the list. And I didn't list all of them here. Here are some alternatives with no performance impact, a process at line rate processing or process at full forwarding rate. And it seems like with no performance impact has the most tickets for now. Here's the definition part and comments.
I think we kind of agreed on one of them, but I don't remember which one. Tony, do you remember?
So we've gone back and forth. Right now, with no performance impact is what I have down.
That's I think we can go with that for the time being and change if necessary when we go to working group last call for the framework. So I think we can post with no performance impact in the text, and then we can revisit at the working group last call.
Sure.
Okay, thanks.
I have a question, please. So we know of readable label depth, but the routers in practice have something called readable depth. They actually go beyond the label stack. And why are we not defining readable depth in bytes, for example, or going beyond the just the MPLS header? Or is it defined, basically, my question? Readable depth. Huh? But in practice, Tony, and thanks for answering it, the routers are actually inspecting sometimes the payload of MPLS to do some smart decision based on the payload or first nibble and so on. And I'm not clear why we only track RLD then. And so I'm not sure about that.
I'm trying not to define terms that nobody references.
Agreed. Okay. Yeah, let's see what others have to say. Okay.
Is readable label depth the same as writable label depth?
No.
Wait, keep to the agenda. It's Greg.
Greg, go ahead. You're at the top of the queue with your question.
So, Tarek, if I understood your question correctly, it caused Ethernet pseudowire a lot of pain when it was the control word made an optional, because transit nodes, what we have found that the transit nodes trying to do load balancing, guessing the payload, and without control word at the bottom of the stack, there were cases where they interpreted the payload as IP traffic.
Yep. That could be one case, Greg. I agree. So do we have such a term, readable depth, so that anyone can assert?
We have a readable label depth entropy, and what it says that it's very close to what we are coming for ROD, but it says that this stack of labels may be used for load balancing. So that's an excessive. That's not what we want to convey in this. So this definition seems to be more aimed specifically to the case of just reading and analyzing the content of this substack.
Okay, thank you. Jimmy, I think you're next. It takes a little time to the mic to come up. Can you hear us, Jimmy? Your mic is green, but we cannot hear you. We still cannot hear you.
Hello, hello.
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, I think that is a good question. Actually, previously we only think about the label depth. Well, since we are considering there may be PSD in the packet also, so maybe we can have a more generic term to cover both ISD and PSD. And the question is whether, if we call it the readable depth, whether it is still belonging to still belongs to this working group, or it's a more generic thing, not only for MPLS?
Correct. Yeah, indeed, and could be a GRE header that we're trying to read, and we don't know the capability of the router, and that's correct. Yeah.
So I think there is a big difference between readable label depth and readable stack depth, and I don't know whether we need both parameters or not, but readable label depth has got certain subtleties associated with it, such as hardware detecting bottom of stack and all those things. But there was another comment I had. We spent most of our time talking about readable label depth, but for MNA we may well need writable versions of these, and I'm not sure that those parameters are the same value.
Do we need to signal, you think, the writable? I mean, I think are you asking specifically?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's on a side note at this point, I suppose, but yeah, if we are MNA is somewhere where we may into the stack as opposed to concept, and the writing characteristics may be different. For example, read just appears as a cached piece of data, doesn't it? Whereas I'm not sure what happens with writing. Probably very hardware dependent. But we are planning to write in the stack. Sorry.
By writing, by writing is the basic MPLS imposing MSD can have this function because it represents the maximum number of nodes can impose on the packet.
Yes,
is it kind of?
Sorry. Carry on. Sorry.
Yeah, I almost finished. So is it the base MPLS imposition MSC kind of the writable label depth? So we already have something like that.
So yes. So there's the imposition depth. There is the readable, which applies just at the ingress. There's the readable depth, which has to apply along the LSP to make sure that you can see certain parameters that have been imposed in the stack. I mean, but previously mainly ELI, but in this case the MNA information. But but unlike anything else we've ever done to the stack before, the MNA information may contain writable parameters, may it not? And the writable parameters are, I don't know whether the hardware will be able to write as deep as it can read. I have no idea. In classical,
I understand. That's another capability.
Exactly. I mean, in classical sort of implementations, it's probably the same.
Yeah.
But in the highly cached hardware-assisted world we live in high-speed forwarders, someone needs to tell me whether it's the same.
So I can't speak for all hardware, but from the hardware that I have seen, yes, they are the same.
Tarek, we have Hao Yu in the queue also.
Sorry, yeah, the mic took a while. Why you? Please go ahead.
Hello.
Why you?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I sorry. Sorry. Yeah, I'm late. I just see this slides, and I'd like to give my comments on that. Actually, in the email discussion, I have said that in the slides, I think the easily should be removed. It's kind of subjective here. It's the reveal too much information. And actually, from the hardware perspective, there are two kinds of situations. One kind of hardware is kind of ASIC based. It's has a fixed functionality and cannot be changed. Then, therefore, it has a hard limitation for the readable label depths, which means you cannot do more than that. It's basically impossible to do that because of the hardware is designed to not support that. Another situation is some kind of a network processor-based device, which is programmable, and it has also has a readable label depth, means it can do that with the acceptable performance trade-off, which means under certain assumptions of the packet size, minimum packet size, and the current feature set, it can somehow realize a wire speed forwarding. But if you want to read beyond that, that will require significant, reload the packet data into the memory buffer. To do that, that will incur significant performance penalty. So we should avoid that. So I think this is the two different situations. That's why we have this readable label depth. We call that readable. It doesn't mean it's only readable, which actually means it can be parsed and processed at the same time. So that's in my opinion, is roughly the same thing.
Loa, you want to comment back?
Hear me now? So how you? What we said before you came online was that for the time being, we put the with no performance impact in the framework, and then we say that it's open to revisit all the time up to closing the working group last call. If we need to add text to the framework, yeah, please help us and do that. Thanks, I'm done.
Okay.
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 Go ahead.
Should I
Yeah.
continue or okay?
For now, please. Yeah, we don't have anyone else in the queue. Go ahead.
Okay. The next page is about the advertising scope. And the protocol must support both per-link and per-node advertisement for ILD. And Tony and Jian provide good use cases in the mailing list for requirement of the per-link advertisement. So the first is modular node consisted of a number of different line cards, which are based on different forwarding engines. And the second is a virtualized virtualization case for virtual routing instances on the same device owning different virtual supports. They may have different capabilities for ILD. And of course, we could advertise ILD per node, which is the smallest ILD on a node. And if there's not any questions, I will continue to the next page. And about the advertising protocols. While the concept MSD is first introduced for SI-MPLS to indicate the maximum number of seats, it's applicable for in non-SI-MPLS case, while the MSD defines the maximum label depth. And IGP already have the mechanism for signaling different types of MSD. So the protocol extension for IGP is simple, just a new IGP MSD type for ILD. Terry, please.
Yes, yeah, sorry. I wanted to ask a question about the previous slide. You're defining link and node scope RLD. What's the relationship between the two? Like, would the per node be the minimum of all the links, for example?
Yeah, the per node RD would be the smallest RD on the node, and yeah, and it has already defined in the M&A framework that both per link and per node could be signaled at the same time, and we should choose per link first.
Okay, thanks. I'll lower my hand. Loa, you go ahead next.
Yeah, we have two terms that are kind of similar. We talk about per platform labels and per interface labels. What are the relationships here?
Oh,
those are old MPLS. Per platform would be very similar to per node, and per interface would be very similar per link, right?
Yeah, but I think we didn't mention the per platform here. We just use
I agree, you haven't done that, but why not go back and use terms that we have already used?
Oh, I didn't check the per platform terminology. In fact, I didn't aware of that. And the reason why we use per link and per node, because for ERD they already use that, so we just use the same per link and per node words.
Okay, I think we.
But I can go back to check the per platform terminology. Yeah.
That would be great.
Tony is at the head of the queue, so please go ahead.
Hi. So, Tarek, to answer your question, my intent here was to allow a node to advertise per node level RLD if it has a single RLD value. And then in addition, if there are multiple different RLDs on specific interfaces, then it could also advertise per link, or it could also just advertise per link. So basically, per node becomes a default for the box.
Okay, I got it. Thank you. Okay, there's
Okay.
we still have one one hand raised lower.
So what Tony said is not exactly what's on the slide. You use the per node if you have the same for all interfaces. And if you have different on the different interfaces, you need to announce the per link, right?
Correct. If you, the slide is not exactly what I intended or have written. If you want per node and if there's variable RLD on the node, you can and should specify them using per node and per link. So you can be accurate. You don't have to lie to people. And using a smallest RLD is probably not optimal.
Could you help us with the text and work with Zhao to get it somewhere where we actually most of us agree on it?
The text in the framework document has already been reviewed, and everyone thought that was acceptable.
Okay, to point Zhao to that text.
It's in the framework draft as published.
Yeah, I go back to check that.
Okay, please proceed, Yao.
Okay, I continue. And we'll continue with the advertising protocols. As we said before, the protocol extension for IGP is simple. We just need a new IGP MSD type for ILD. And in the centralized scenario, the controller or PC needs to be aware of the ILD of each intermediate LSR, either via BGP-LS or YAM model. For BGP-LS, there's no extension, and YAM model needs a small update after the IGP extension being accepted. So the YAM model is not included in the draft. They have their own draft. And the question is, since the protocol extension for IGP is simple, where do we request for the new IGP MSD type in the framework draft or in the separate LSR draft? Because currently both drafts have done this.
Hey, Yao, I have a question if you are ready to take it now.
Okay.
Okay. Why are you talking about segments? We started with labels and now you're talking about SIDs and SR. And I don't know what brought in SIDs to the discussion. It could be that SIDs are MPLS or non-MPLS in segment routing. So just calling it maximum SID depth is confusing to the least. So that's about the maximum SID depth naming. But altogether, I think we should stick, not bring in segment routing yet. So keep it to label. Why are we talking about SIDs?
Because the concept MSD is originally come from SRMPLS, and it is also mentioned that although the MSD is called maximum SID depth, it can be used in the non-SR scenario. In this case, the MSD represents the maximum label depth. So the term MSD, its origin means maximum seed depth, not maximum label depth from its writing.
Yeah, I'm not debating the maximum seed depth that's already defined, but I think we should not, we're not defining another seed depth. So we are defining a
Oh,
readable label depth.
oh yes.
And then, you know,
So
yeah, that's what I mean. I don't think we should overload that term at all.
The problem is that the existing mechanisms already are defined in terms of an ERLD MSD.
Yeah. So you're saying that the
yeah,
protocol extensions
so
are defined already for, or are we defining new protocol extensions?
The code points are defined in terms of MSD.
Okay, maybe we should take that offline. But I still think that we should have a generic label. Okay.
Okay, Tarek, if I may. So what Yao and Tony referring to, we have IANA registry for MSD types. So we can assume that the new
Okay. So one question I'm going to raise my hand. So we are going to use that IGP MSD type. So we're looking at a new type from IGP MSD type, not a new. Yeah, that's the plan.
yes, probably because we'll get a new MSD type. It will be can advertise in IGP.
Okay.
I've put a link in the chat to the IANA MSD allocation.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Tony. I just clicked on it and I'm still mic was on, yes. And I see it's all segment routing specific. So that's my concern again, but I'm happy to take it offline and see if I'm mistaken anywhere.
It is, yes, it's defined in terms of segment SIDS, but it is not actually SIDS. It really is label depth. And so it's a terminology problem that was created when this concept was introduced and nobody caught it. And so if we want to use different terminology, we're going to have to replicate all of these mechanisms, which seems extremely wasteful.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thanks. I'll take a look offline. No problem. Okay. Loa, please go ahead.
I agree with Tony that we shouldn't produce duplicates of what already is in Diana. We might want to have a text explaining the situation that arising with M&A. Where we should put that, I don't know really. Maybe an update to the document that actually define the register. But we need to go look and see what we want to do. But I think it's kind of clear what Yao want to do with respect to the register at least. Okay, thanks.
Okay, Yao, please proceed.
Okay, and I'll continue that the discussion about where we put this registration, because as I mentioned before, currently both the framework draft and the LSR draft have have both requests for a new IGP-MEC type for ILD. And in my opinion, currently in the M&A framework, by saying ILD is advertised by an IGP-MEC type, is there an assumption that IGP is the only advertising protocol for M&A? Maybe in the future there are other existing or new protocols need to be defined, need to be extended to support M&A. So is it better to, in the framework, to say that the ILD value can be advertised via protocols, and list some examples like IGP, and here are some basic ILD advertising and processing rules. So no matter what protocol needs to support M&A or ILD, it can be extended following the instruction in the M&A framework. So that's my point of view. Tony, please.
If there are new protocols advertise RLD, I don't see we need to say anything.
So to be honest, I haven't read too many framework drafts, but for my understanding, normally the framework specifies some general rules. So I'm not sure is it usual way to define the protocol extensions in the framework draft? Sorry, Tony, I can't hear you.
Please progress further. I don't see anyone in the queue. Yao, do you have any
Okay.
more slides?
I believe Tony was speaking, but I can't hear him, so I just
Oh, I
continue.
see. Okay. I don't see him in the queue now. So I'll go with, we can go with the assumption that he will come back.
Okay.
But I think he went offline, to be honest. He got disconnected.
Okay. So
He may have.
here are some. Okay.
Tony, if you
Please.
can hear us and you want to speak, just raise your hand and we can interrupt Yao. Thanks. Go ahead, Yao.
Okay. Here are some related works. Currently, there are two types of IGP-MSD for MPLS. One is base MPLS impulsion MSD. It represents the number of labels that can be imposed on the node link, so it is not related with ILD. Another is ERLD MSD for entropy label readable depth, and it is related with the router's ability to process ELs. If a router is capable of reading N labels but not using an EL located within those N labels, its ERLD is 0. So ERLD is not reused. So ERLD MSD is not reused for ILD. And another observation is that there's other work action. There's other network action specified ILD, and the MPLS embed PM encapsulation draft defines the flow ID readable label depth similar to ERLD. And with ILD MSD, do this MSD need to be defined further? From my personal understanding, possibly not. A node can signal certain network action capability and the ILD MSD to indicate that it can process this network action within the ILD. And how to process when both ILD and network action specified ILD are received. And in the SR draft, we didn't talk about that and leave the decision to implementation. And any comments?
Yes, hi. I think the capability of a network action is independent of the readable label depth. So being able to read
Yes.
and it's not, tightly coupled with being capable. And I think we need a separate, way to advertise capability of a network action from a node. And I don't think it should
Yes,
be in one
that's
draft, in the same draft.
yes, that's what I mean is that we if we take EILD as an example, because the FILD is defined. Take examples by EILD, and so EILD mean EILD has two meanings. First, we can read N labels. The second, we can process the entropy label located within those N labels. So ERD itself means it has the ability to process the entropy label. But in fact, we have the advertisement of ERD as well as the advertisement of ELC, which is the entropy label capability. So what I mean is that does this MSD related to the network action need to be defined further? Because if we have ILD MSD advertisement, and when we define a new network capability, we advertise it, both the network action capability and ILD, and it can present the node is able to process the network within the ILD. So it seems like in the future we don't need the network action specified ILDs, like similar to ERLD. That's my point of view.
Okay, so just so I understand, you are going back to ERLD and the way it was defined, and that's fine. We're not changing that. But you are
Yes, I
in
mean,
RLD. RLD is something not, it's not ERLD, it's something different. And I don't think it's tied to any capability or action RLD. So just, this is how far I can read, and that's it. But this is my opinion. Let me know. What do you think?
So the intent in the framework draft is that RLD is general, and in fact, it's not even specific to M&A.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's in line with what I'm, yeah.
Yes. I totally understand that. And what I mean is that with ILD, in the future, network action specified ILDs seems like they don't need to be defined. For example, the flow ID readable label depth MSD, because we just need ILD. That is enough. Am I right?
So again, I think I think the capability of an action, regardless if it be an M&A action or a flow ID you're referring to, which I think is still possible to do it in M&A. It's still on the plate. But going back to M&A, I think the capability of an action will have to be advertised somehow, and it's not yet defined. So, and that's separately to be done separate, not
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
The fact that ERLD overloads both its capability and its RLD into the same value was a bug, and that should have been fixed. This should never have been allowed. This is why we have to go ahead.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Right. So this is why we're defining a general RLD now. We're fixing that problem, and we should not repeat that mistake. So we should not have an M&A specific or even flow ID specific RLD. That does not reflect how the hardware works.
Mm.
Okay. That's all for the slides, and I think when we talk about where to put these IGP extensions, Tony put a link on it. So it where to put the IGP extensions, I think, is the first point we need to decide. So do we need a separate IGP draft, or we just put all this in the framework draft?
So what's in the
need to
framework
be
draft
decided.
right now?
So,
what's in the framework draft right now defines the RLD and requests the code point. And we already have existing IGP drafts for how to advertise MSD, ERLD MSD, but allocating the new code point allows us to just reuse those mechanisms. So I'm not aware of any need to allocate new mechanisms in the IGP.
oh yes, so my point is similar. So because the protocol extension for IGP is simple, we just need a new IGP MSD type. So if we put the IGP MSD request in the framework draft, we don't need a separate LSR draft, but it's all based to the working group's decision. I'm okay with both.
I think this the IANA is managed by the LSR working group. So either way, we have to engage them to tell them we're intending to allocate this new type. for this purpose. The draft, I think we need to decide to keep this IANA allocation in the framework or have a short draft just to do this new type allocation. I'm okay either way, but
Yes, the new type allocation and to mention that the IGP MSD can set via BGP-MS. So that's the main point of the IGP draft now.
If you want to signal it in BGPLS, then at that time you have to.
There's no extension.
Yeah. Right. My understanding is BGPLS will carry those TLVs as is. IGP defined
Yes.
ones. You're not going to redefine IGP ones, right? In BGP.
Yes. So currently in the IGP draft, we just mentioned that we can advertise this new MSD type via BGP, just like it is.
Okay, so I think you need to work with the framework authors draft to see if this allocation needs to be done in LSR working group and BGP working, and the IDR, depending on if you want to do it in BGPLS or not. But that's my take. What do you think, Loa and others? I'm not sure about keeping the MSD type, the IGP MSD type allocation in the framework draft. I'm having mixed feeling on that. It doesn't sound.
So since you're asking me, I was kind of rather comfortable with having it in the framework. But so where would we put it if we don't put it in the framework?
Are you asking me?
Yeah, everyone, but
I think the definition of RLD can definitely stay, and the utility of it and to M&A on others can stay within MPLS, but we need the type in a that's my opinion, in a separate draft with LSR working group for IGP, and that I'm going to stop right there. Maybe someone else has their perspective different.
I agree that we need LSR approval, but having a separate draft just to allocate a code point seems excessive.
I see.
so
Please.
yeah,
Go ahead.
that's how we done it before earlier. We have been assigning code points from other working groups registers, and other working group has been assigning our registers, and that hasn't been a problem. We never had been required to actually write a specific draft for the allocation, even though I think we done it one time, but that were other reasons.
I see.
So if we allocate it in the framework and allocate from an LSR managed registry, we need to tell the LSR group what we're doing concerning the allocation, and they need to approve that. That's the process we used before.
Right, that's true. And I need to double check, the it needs to become a standards track document rather than informational if it is not already.
Are you saying that the LSR, the registry says that code points are
You're allocating a type, right? You want to make it the document will become the framework draft document will be standards track, right?
I kind of.
I need to check, if it is not already.
I don't think so, but the.
It is not. In fact, it is informational at the moment.
But the allocations procedure from the IGP MSD types are expert review. So if I remember correctly, expert review does not require a standard text document.
Okay. I mean, with my limited knowledge, I think if you're allocating that type, can be informational. Well,
Stuart, do you remember what the requirements, because you were on the ISG at that time when that was decided. Do you remember what the requirements for expert review are?
Expert review is just that the experts agree to it. I don't think that's a current one, is it? But anyway, experts just require the experts to review it. They don't require even a specification.
You can
So
have
is
an
this-
external. You can have an external document. Yeah, that's what you're saying. I think that's true. But the GO would also allow a informational document, an informational RFC, right?
Well, hang on a second. It depends on the registry. So what registry are we talking about? What are the exact
You're
rules?
talking
for that
about IGP MSD types. It says
Yeah.
registration procedures, expert review, and nothing else.
Well, that means just the experts have to agree. You don't even need a written specification available to anyone else. It's a very, very loose one. You just have to get the experts to agree.
okay. I see.
But the experts will likely want something written down, of course.
Yeah, they
Who are the-
normally need a document, but
Who are the experts?
it's Jeff and Uma.
Right. Well, to get an expert review code point, you just have to convince the experts.
Okay. Lowell, go ahead. You're still raising your hand.
Well, that's because I haven't taken it down. Thank you. I will do that.
Are we converging on an action plan to keep it in the framework? It seems that it's loose requirement that registry, so it doesn't require standards track document. Are we saying that this is the plan forward? I'm trying to help out Yao here to see what is the next step. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
what I'm trying to ask is, you're presenting this draft in the LSR working group. Is that what your intention is?
Yeah. So if the decision is to put the registration in the framework draft, so I think there's no need to this IGP draft. So it's based on the working group's decision whether to put the registration.
Okay, there were things that I wasn't aware, like the idea of the framework remaining informational and still allocating. So given that, I don't see that we strictly have to have a draft to just allocate a type, and maybe we can rely on the framework to do this allocation. And Lawa will he's having his
Yeah,
hand.
I think that we as the MPLS shares can say that we are willing to have the allocation done by the M&A framework. And if anyone has a different opinion, we need to discuss that. Is that reasonable summary of our discussion?
I am fine with
I'm
that.
okay with that.
Yeah, okay.
Mm.
All right. Okay, I think we have to present then whatever we're presenting now as on the behalf of the framework draft to LSR working group. So we have to tell them this is the RLD definition and this is what we intend to do. And is that the plan? Do you want to work with the framework co-authors, Yao, or maybe the framework authors will? So I'm asking this question in the context of the framework draft now and being it ready for working group last call. We are putting a requirement now to engage the LSR working group. And I want to see that engagement before we progress the document further. So I want to hear from the authors of the framework draft now.
I'm fine with what they're saying, but actually Tony is the editor and he might have more information. But I thought that Tony was okay with this.
I will be happy to reach out to LSR.
Okay, fine. Then we say that the author of the framework draft will reach out to LSR and tell them what we are planning. Tarek, you okay with that?
Yes, I'm fine with that. We can
Okay.
summarize it like that. No problem. Okay. Yao, anything else you want to add? You are clear on the next steps?
No, nothing to add.
Okay, great. Thank you. Going back to the agenda, I think we're done for today, unless someone else wants to bring up a topic.
I had any
Oh,
other business. Do you remember?
yes, you did. Go ahead. Oh.
Okay, that's just an announcement. The meeting next week will discuss the M&A use cases. And I'm preparing a mail telling the authors to prepare outstanding issues and questions to the working group. And I'm asking the participants to review the document and participate in the discussion. So I have the mail more or less ready and will send it out within an hour. But use cases for discussion next week.
Okay, thank you. All right, with this, thank you so much, whoever attended, and we look forward to seeing you next week on Thursday. Have a good day.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye now.